Kian, how's it going, mate? Welcome to Brett Russell Chats. How's things?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
All good, all good. Well, first of all, Kian Forreal, you're a world-renowned tattooer. You're an artist, and you're a business owner, and you've done extremely well in life. So, first of all, how did you get into tattooing?
Oh man, look, I kind of just got drawn to it when I was a young teenager, and um, sort of messed around with it a little bit when I was in my early teens. I was always drawn to it, sort of the just the darker nature of it, the permanence of it. It was socially unacceptable.
Yeah,
Always appealed to me as a kid, and but being 13, 14, 15, I couldn't really buy real equipment or do an apprenticeship or anything, so I just played with it a bit with bit of homemade stuff. And then when I was
yeah.
older, in my early 20s, I got all the equipment and went and got a job and sort of learned properly. And then I never went back. And that was 32 years ago.
That's wow, mate. And how does that work? Like, do you just get in and do you go and get an apprenticeship somewhere? Is that how it works, or is it like a
Oh man, it's different now than what it was. I mean, back in those days, apprenticeships were very few and far between, and there was no information. Obviously, there was no internet. So you
yeah,
can all that information, all that YouTube, all that everything was non-existent, right? So there was no information. If you wanted to know anything about it, you had to literally go into a tattoo shop and try and talk to one of these salty old bastards, and usually they just tell you to fuck off, right? If they didn't punch you in the
yeah,
face.
yeah,
Right? It was very aggressive, and
yeah,
um, and I don't disparage that way. I would kind of wish it still was that way, right?
yeah,
Because it protected the craft. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It kept all the dipshits out, and if you wanted it bad enough, you'd find a way, and I did. You
yeah,
know, I got equipment, and I went and got a job in a shop, and I learned. I went to a bunch of different shops and learned from a bunch of different people. And I mean, look, I'm still learning. I'm 32 years in. It's still an ongoing learning process. It's like kung fu.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
cannot master Shaolin Kung Fu in its entirety, right? And you
No,
cannot master tattooing in its entirety. You can go down different pathways.
yeah,
You can become a master of Japanese or a master of realism or a master of tribal, but you can never master the whole thing, right?
yes,
There's
yeah,
always something to learn. And in Japanese, I think, which is, one of the more advanced pathways, which is what I do, you can never master even just that pathway because there's so many other pathways within that pathway in terms
yes,
of the type of Japanese you do, whether you specialize in warriors or dragons or water creatures. When there's just so much information that it's literally impossible to be the
yeah,
master of this without having to constantly go back and refresh yourself in the books and in the information and relearn. Like I'll spend a month or two drawing tigers for some projects, and I'll forget how to draw dragons. And I'll
okay. So it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I'll spend a few more months getting back into dragons, and I will have forgotten stuff about koi fish. So it's this constant
yes, yes,
having to refresh and relearn, and the same in kung fu. If you spend all your time doing sword work, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
it comes back to doing staff, you might be a little bit rusty.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
I really like that correlation between your craft and what I do as well. Like, I see lots of similarities, and I mean, I don't know too much about tattooing at all, just from what we've spoken about and what you tell me about. But there's this real there's this aspect of mastery and practice and continual practice and there are very very similar philosophies within it, and and for me it's fascinating because I'm not into art or tattooing myself. I appreciate it. I can look at something and go, wow, that's amazing and that's great. Um, and certainly, I know when I met you, and obviously, you worked on me with my art and what you've done there. And man, I can tell you, it's almost like a spiritual experience. It's a story on you. You're the artist. You're the master working on this art, and it's, you feel it. Obviously, it's physical as well, like getting it done, as you know. And it's for me, it's the whole thing. It was the whole experience. It's just an amazing experience.
As it should be. I mean, this is
Yeah.
one of my, I don't want to say complaints, but one of my observations of the current environment we live in is everything's been kind of co-opted and made kind of fake and gay, you know, like whether it's kung fu or karate or, you know, kids lessons that are just, you know, bullshit for martial art and tattooing as well. You know, you got tattoo shops like nail salons now. There's no magic to it. There's no craftsman. There's no, you know, the real people, like the real people such as yourself and some of my colleagues and I that really care about what we do.
Yes.
You know, it's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? Like, than what's going on out there when people are learning how to tattoo. You asked me about learning how to tattoo. I mean, most of the people now that come through my shop have learned to tattoo on YouTube or. You know,
oh wow, really? Yeah.
Well, I mean, or tattoo. I don't hire people that learn in tattoo schools. You know, I make a big point not to, right? Because I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it'd be the same thing, you know, as if someone did like an 8-week TAFE course to be a kung fu master.
Yeah, an online course,
and then I opened a dojo down the street from you, you know what I mean? But I say, I try not to let it bother me anymore. Is that I just look at that as that's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It's over there. That's that. What I do is different, right? I mean, I trained with you for 5 years, 2 days a week, and I saw the dedication you had in what you do. And, you know, and I look, I've tattooed a lot of kung fu instructors in my time, and some of them are good friends.
Yeah.
But what you do is different. I mean, and it's like, and this is, you know, this is what separates this from that, you know, and it's like, you know, a lot of people I know that are into the kung fu thing have never been in a real fight. You know? And look, a lot of the guys in my shop that tattoo don't have a lot of tattoos. You know, I don't know what to get, or, you know, or my mom wouldn't like it, or I can't commit, or it hurts. I'm like, what the fuck are you even doing tattooing, man? You know?
Well, I know, like, when we first met, I'm like, wow, this guy's a tattoo artist. You know, you're in it. I can see you had art on you. You're and very similar to, again, martial artists in that way. I could tell, and certainly I know with your training, with your kung fu training, you're very disciplined, and you know, it's I could see that there was that correlation between, similar to martial arts and how you learned tattooing. It's a discipline, and it's I could tell you're just real with it. And I know something before I did my work, and we were talking about this while you were training. You said it's a good story, like you like tattooing with a story. And I know certainly my work has a story. It's about my training and what I do. And that to me was real, man. That was just, again, there's you and what you do, and there's, in my opinion, there's others. And that's no, I'm not tainting anyone else or whatever, but certainly from what I know, you've got this, you're the real deal, you know, and it's within what you do, and it shows, and that's obviously why you're good at it. And you
I mean, from my point of view, it's just about putting in the work and just taking it seriously. And having integrity, you know. That's what it comes down to for me. It's the same with how I run my business. Try to having integrity and trying to do the right thing the right way every time. Not just easy.
And I know businesses, you know, you got to keep working at it, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's with business. But I was going to say, man, with regards to, because I know you know the name of Horisumi.
Horisumi,
is that the and what's the tradition there, and how obviously you're under a master and you learnt the Tabori way of tattooing, and how explain to me how that sort of works? And it's
Okay.
similar to a martial arts master, I'm assuming.
I would say that my situation is quite atypical, right?
Okay.
Not normal, right?
Okay.
So I came up, I started tattooing in '93. I tattooed in Canada for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
A few different shops, mostly under a guy named Crazy Ace, who was quite a well-known biker tattooer.
Okay.
All right. And so I worked with him for about 5 years, cut my teeth, just the basics with him and learning the business and stuff. And then I went traveling. I ended up in Europe.
Yeah.
When I worked for a guy named Neil Ahern in Ibiza, and that's when I learned a lot about custom tattooing and sort of that kind of a totally different mentality.
Yeah.
From biker shop tattooing to custom tattooing, right? And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and he helped me a lot with my technical stuff, making needles and stuff.
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me. And then I sort of dedicated myself to just finding the people I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
And going and putting myself under their wings, so to speak, right? So I spent the next 7-8 years just traveling around Europe and Asia and just, I want to come work for you, go work for you. I'll do all the little stupid tattoos. I'm not coming and trying to be a hero.
Yeah.
Do all the walk-ins and all the silly stuff and just be around them and learn from them and, take what I can from each situation.
Yeah.
In some situations, it was, learning what not to do, learning how to run a shop.
Yeah.
And in some situations, it was, great learning about art and how to run a business. And then I ended up here in Australia for a few different summers, just guest spotting. And then I stayed here and I worked for a guy named Cliff, and I ran his shop in Surrey Hills for about 5 years, managing the shop, hiring artists, and sort of running the day-to-day sort of. And that's how I kind of cut my teeth running a business, right?
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't paying the bills or doing any of the admin, I was running the sort of front of house and sort of managing people to a certain degree, right?
Yes.
That's not the business side of things. So, I mean, while I was doing all that, I was building this career and I was very busy. Probably 2008, 2009, I was probably the most sought after tattooer in Australia.
I was going to say, that's right.
I had about a 2.5 year wait list for a consult.
Wow.
And, and I tried to take it very seriously and not let it go to my head. I just focused on the work.
Yes.
I did 40 hours a week of tattooing, head down, didn't take vacations and just worked my ass off. Yeah. And really just focused on getting better. My whole life was eat, sleep, tattoo. Eat, sleep, go to the tattoo, right?
Yes.
And then, and I was doing big work and, work I thought was good. And so when I used to go to visit in Japan, I used to go visit some of the masters, Horiyoshi III, and some other people. And Horiyoshi III, which is probably one of the most, excuse me.
That's right.
Horiyoshi III is probably one of the most well-known, famous faces of traditional Japanese tattooing, right?
Okay.
Very good sport.
He's like a master, you would say. He's
master. He's a
Yeah.
national treasure of Japan, right? So he's
Wow.
published heaps of art books, heaps of paintings, prolific artist, prolific body of tattooing. He's very old now and very sick. I don't think he tattoos much anymore. But up until maybe 5 years ago, he was still tattooing pretty frequently.
Okay.
Pretty old. And my friend Alex was his apprentice, his Western apprentice. So, I visited Horiyoshi several times, had dinner with him and drinks, bought paintings off him and stuff. And I just sort of talked to Alex about, hey, you think, because I used to bring my portfolio to Horiyoshi and show him my portfolio, and he would critique it and stuff. And
yes, yeah.
And so I spoke to him about, maybe getting a name, right? Because a lot of these Japanese tattoo guys, I don't know, I don't want to disparage anybody's trip. Everyone has their journey and their pathway, right? There's many ways to the mountain.
Yeah.
But for me, there was no way I was taking on a Japanese name if it wasn't given to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I want to be a person that named myself.
Yes.
Or come up with something hokey like that. For me, that's just not my way, and it's cool for other people, just not for me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I spoke to Alex about it a bit, and he spoke to Horiyoshi about it, and Horiyoshi knew who I was, and I've been tattooing for 20 years, and so I went and met Horiyoshi, and we talked, and he came up with a name, Horisumi, for me, and did a calligraphy for me, tattooed it on my chest.
Wow.
And then and from then on I became sort of Horisumi. And because it was from him, it was pretty legit,
That's
and
an honor, right? That's
yeah. So it's an honorary name. I didn't apprentice under him. He's not my master or anything like that.
yeah.
But it was an honorary name for like 20 years of tattooing and doing good Japanese and being dedicated to the craft. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool. And that's kind of where the Horisumi thing started. So Hori is the prefix. If you look at Japanese traditional tattoo master names, they all start with Hori, right?
Okay.
So you have Horiyoshi, Horitoshi, Horihide, Horikazu, Horiasu. I mean, they're all Hori names. So Hori is the prefix that means to carve, right?
Okay.
Right. So in traditional Japanese tattooing, like what I do, which is tebori, which is the hand poke with the bamboo stick, right?
Yes.
Tebori is hand carve, is what that means.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. So it's the same. They consider it very similar and akin to carving wood blocks for ukiyo-e woodblock prints.
I see. Yes.
So if you're a traditional tattooer, you're considered a carver, right?
Okay. Yep.
So Hori is carve, basically.
Yes.
It's to carve, right?
Yes.
And then you got your secondary name after that, right? So in Japan, up until like 5 years ago, tattooing has been illegal, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
The same way like graffiti guys use pseudonyms, and DJs at illegal raves use pseudonyms.
Yeah.
Right, so they can't get caught. Japanese tattooers would use pseudonyms, right? Because they're pretty common. Like they'd kick in your door, they'd steal all your designs, they'd take all your needles and inks, and then run you out of the suburb, and you'd have to go start again, right?
Jeez.
All these tattooers use these pseudonyms, right?
Yes.
It could be like an iteration of your first name, an iteration of your last name, an iteration of where you come from, or some attribute you have. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So me, Horisumi. Sumi obviously is the black tattoo ink that we all use, but Forreal, the kanji for Forreal is similar to the kanji for truth, which is similar to the kanji for Sumi. Right? So we kind of made this iteration of, so Horisumi kind of became like Hori Forreal, kind of.
Yeah.
So it worked out good. It's a good name.
That's awesome. Because that's very similar to, as you know, with generation names for Shaolin. It's we have there's a poem that goes way back 1500 years from the Dharma, from the creator of Zen, of Chen, and then he has the generation names, and then obviously we're up to now the 32nd, and I know you're a disciple of a 33rd. So each of the name comes from that poem, the first name. So mine's Xing, so yours is Wu. Xing, yours is Yong, and then the next is a given name, which is so it's I like the similarity there. It's
similar sort of thing, right?
Yeah. That's quite interesting. That's good. And I was going to say with that, like, is there any? Do you feel, I suppose, a stronger connection to doing tebori than, say, machine work, or is there any difference from your perspective as an artist?
Yeah, for sure, man. Look, like I always wanted to do tebori, but again, it was very difficult. You can't teach yourself tebori. You can try, but you'll suck, right?
Yeah.
You'll just suck. 'Cause I tried, and I was a good tattooer, and I couldn't teach myself tebori because you have to know how to make the needles. Needles have to be perfect.
Yes.
Tebori's got two speeds: hot dog shit and good.
Yes.
There's no middle ground. In machine tattooing, you've got a gradation of shit, okay, not bad, good, better, great, right?
Yeah.
Tebori's unforgiving, right?
Okay.
It's either dog shit or it's okay, good. And then it goes from there, right?
Yeah.
So when I finally got the opportunity to learn how to do tebori from my tattoo brother Horikashi, he's my tattoo sort of bro that taught me tebori, and he came here and worked and learned in my studio, or taught me in my studio, and I went to Japan.
Okay.
I learned tebori in his studio, tattooing his clients. So I published a book for him. I don't know if you remember, I did a tattoo book for him.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
Him and I had a lot of back and forth. He still comes and visits. He came down to the farm and spent a few weeks here last year. And so I learned Tabori from him, and that was very helpful. And then once I knew how to do Tabori, there was no looking back. This is what I want, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To my own physical detriment. Like, this is why I've had a hip replacement surgery. Because I'm sitting in a chair for 30 or 25 years tattooing, to sitting cross-legged on the floor tattooing. And as a 6'2" white boy who's never been very flexible, I destroyed my hip doing that.
Jeez.
Got myself a shoulder injury doing it. Got myself tennis elbow doing it. I mean, those are all healed up now. Yeah. But I powered through and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I feel a much greater connection to tattooing Tabori. It's a whole different sort of type of tattooing, a different spiritual aspect to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially now, I mean, a lot of the tattooers now have really progressed with the technology. Okay. And I'm not a technophobe. I love technology in some ways, and I'm very analog in other ways. Like, I do all my drawing on paper with pens and brushes and ink and paint. Yeah. Whereas most tattooers now draw on iPads and press them. Really? Oh yeah, most. So a high majority are drawing on iPads or tablets of some sort, right? And look, it's good for you, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are also tattooing with, these all electric, wireless, like machine pens where the needles all click in, and it's all very plug and play. Like, you don't need to understand your equipment at all.
Yes.
Right? It's just open the box, plug it in, off you go, right?
Yeah.
And as much as I like technology in some ways, I also like shooting on film. And, so I like things that are analog. So my machines are still the old style machines, which I use for outlining, which you have to understand. I still make my own needles. I still need to learn how things work and put them together. And so that aspect of the craft, I enjoy immensely, because it gives you a deeper connection to what you're doing, I think.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, because you just brought up art there, because I see some of your art in the background. You're a great artist, and how is that how you continue to evolve with do you do artwork for your own pleasure, and is it part of the tattooing process, or is it how would you describe it? Because I mean, your art
when you wake up, when you do your forms, right?
Yes.
That's like when I wake up, when I do some drawing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
The difference is, though, is that your forms are sort of ethereal and you've done them, and they only exist in the past because you've done them. Yes. I've got a visual representation of my forms. So I might wake up, draw some koi fish with water just as practicing my craft.
Yes.
Draw some dragon heads. And sometimes, like, I used to paint a lot more than I do now. I've got 3 children now, and
times
and farm, and So I used to paint a lot. Now I paint less and draw when I can to keep sharp.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's not so much, drawing for pleasure where I'm sitting around wanking at my own art designs.
Yeah.
And you're looking at yourself in the mirror while you're doing forms.
No,
it's about practicing the craft and staying sharp.
That's right. Yeah. And another thing I mean, I just remember my experience, obviously, from when you tattooed my arm and shoulder and chest. Mate, your placement is like, I mean, you've tattooed a tiger on my sort of shoulder and arm, and the placement of that. And I never forget, there was one of the main tattooers that was there at the time. I remember he came over when you did the outline, and he's like, that placement is just perfect. And I get people even today just looking at my shoulder and where that tiger is on the shoulder. Your iron placement is just, it's phenomenal. And I was going to say, is that obviously it's something that you must just have naturally, or is it something that is taught? How does that work with tattooing? Is it eye?
I think it's got to be, I mean, obviously it's from decades of doing tattoos.
Yeah, right? Yeah, 100%.
And maybe putting a few in the wrong place, right? But like the thing with stencils is you can put stencils on over and over again until it looks right. I mean, I just have an eye for what I think looks right. It really bothers me when things aren't in the right place.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's like real estate, right? Location, location, location. Tattoo. If you draw a great tattoo, but it's in the wrong fucking place,
Yeah,
it's gonna look very suboptimal, right?
yeah.
Especially with your tiger head coming over onto the chest. It's got to be in the right fucking place, right?
Yeah. That's
and
true.
your domino's got to be in the right place, and your flowers got to be in the right place.
Yeah.
And then the composition, right? This is your composition.
Yes.
So you've got drawing. You could have good drawing ability, and I know some people that could draw a thing.
Yes.
But the composition sucks.
Yeah.
You have to have everything.
Yeah.
It's like you could have speed, but if you have no coordination, you're fucking useless, right?
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But and that leads me into business. Like obviously you not only did you learn the craft of all this tattooing and the experience to Bori, now you're running a business. You have people under you, other tattoo artists under you. How are you finding that? I mean, obviously you've mastered that, and you've
master is a strong word. I'm better at it now than I used to be.
Business is always a tough thing, but how do you find and how are you navigating that? Is it because I find that you've been a bit of a sort of blazing the way into this the modern way of running a tattoo business, but at the same time keeping traditionalism and so it's a really good mix. You're sort of forging forward and sort of almost navigating new paths of business and how to run a business in tattooing, but at the same time you're keeping it traditional. That's from an observation. So how did you formulate that, or has it just sort of worked that way?
I guess it's just the same as my tattooing. As much as I love technology, I love analog as well, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, all of our as a matter like my business is in a third floor warehouse, no front, there's no door on the street, there's no glass frontage. You kind of have to know where we are or find us on the internet, right?
Yeah.
But well, yeah, you can walk in and get a tattoo. That's fine. And most people email us, right?
Yeah.
I've got a girl that replies to emails. Every email is replied to individually. We don't have an automated system. We don't have an auto booking system. I pay people to talk to you and reply to you, and they have personal touch. I've got, usually 3 floor staff that are looking after clients, looking after artists.
Yeah.
Just to give it a nice, homey, personable feel.
Yeah.
And I try to select artists that enhance the business, work well with each other, and bring something to the table, right?
Yeah.
I tend to have an eye for picking people that will fit in and do well, even if their portfolios need some work.
Yes.
I usually, look, I've been wrong too. I've fucked up a few times as well and picked some real assholes. And have to get rid of them, But it's look, running a business, but managing people, dude. Like, before COVID, I had 17 artists under the roof, and 2 or 3 apprentices, and the person on the counter, and it's a lot of people, man. To manage and keep happy in relationships and this kind of thing, right? I think now we've got 12 artists and 3 apprentices. And and I've softened a little bit as well. It's learning how to deal with people. I mean, if you've never been taught how to deal with people, and I've always been the most I don't know how you put it. I have been abrasive in my past, a little bit hard, So
that's a bit old school.
Yeah, I'm old school in that sense. Like I expect people to. I expect, my character flaw is that I expect people to have the same values and integrity and truth telling as I have, right? and that when I come at them with logic, they'll understand what I'm talking about. And that's, I mean, I take that for granted that people are just like that, and they're not.
Yeah.
People are not honest, and they're not good, and a lot of them don't have integrity.
No.
And so when you try to project your own set of morals onto people that you're managing, and then you get really disappointed when they don't live up to that, it's
right? It is. It's hard. Yeah. I think managing people really, I think running a business certainly is about managing people, and that's
all it is.
That's and it's just if you can manage those different personalities and different aspects, then you're on the way. But I mean, you've done an amazing job with it. I mean, you've been running now for it's well over 11 years. It's amazing. That's and sort of forging away. I mean, that's what I like. I mean, it's just forging. It's a modern path with the ancient ways, and that's what I think is good. And I mean, it's you're sort of keeping that integrity of the ancient ways, but
I'm trying. I also don't want to. A lot of guys get into a position where they're doing really well, and so they open a second shop or they open a third shop.
Yeah.
Or they open a supply company. What I mean? And then you start spreading yourself very thin, and then your overhead becomes huge, right?
Yes.
And when overheads become huge, integrity is the first thing to go out the window.
That's right. That's right.
Start, well, fuck, I need to pay this $30,000 in rent this month. Yeah. So, fuck that guy. I'll hire these 3 people that can't tattoo very well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And you start making decisions. And so I made I think an early decision to not get involved in doing that. I expanded my shop from when I first did it. But I wanted to be there under one roof, have one place. And, I've been tempted to open a second shop. Before COVID hit and everything was booming, it had occurred to me, but I never acted on it. And having a supply company, again, too many moving fucking parts.
Yeah.
Too much bullshit. I'm just a tattooer, man. I like tattooing. I like being around people.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make a well-oiled, well-run machine that I can be in the center of and keep an eye on. I'm not a greedy person. I like money. But a lot of things are way more important to me than money.
100%. Yeah. Time, family, and all that sort of stuff. That's
time, family, honor, integrity, duty.
Yes.
I never want anyone to look. There's a lot of people that and we all have our haters out there.
Yeah.
But the haters that come at me, they can say I'm an asshole. I get that a lot. Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm a harsh master. If you've been an apprentice by me and washed out, you probably fucking deserved it. But I was pretty harsh, right?
Yeah.
Never stolen from anybody. Never lied to anybody. Never fucked anybody over.
Yeah.
Never took tattooing and abused it. All these things. Call me names, but you can never say I did bad by business or tattooing, right? That's what matters to me, right? If I did something wrong, I'd have a hard time sleeping at night because I care about these things, right?
No, that when you come to that point, mate, always remember. Certainly, when you were tattooing me, there's a thing I'm going to tell you, a story. And I don't know if you remember this because I know you were busy working, doing my tattoo and then running the place and doing whatever. I remember a guy came in and he'd had quite a few drinks, and I think his daughter had flown overseas for the first time and she was going to work overseas, and this guy was white collar worker guy, came in and he wanted to have a tattoo on his hand.
Right.
And I remember you were tattooing me, but you were looking at this guy and you were checking the other artist, and in the end, basically you basically said to the guy, you went over there, I never forget, you stopped tattooing me for a tick, you went over and you had to talk to the guy, you had to talk to the artist, and then what happened was you made him realize that he needed to get a tattoo, not visibly, because obviously he had never had a tattoo before. And he was thinking emotionally probably and whatever. And you said, look, let's get it on the arm. Let's put it up a bit further and in memory of your daughter or whatever. And that's what happened. And then at the end, this guy came over and obviously had sobered up, or you made him realize something. And after the tattoo was done, he came over and thanked you. And it was then when I realized, I'm like, man, you care. And that's awesome. Yeah. And it's not just because a lot of people say they care, but you actually care. And that's the thing.
I've saved so many people from themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Young girls want neck tattoos, hand tattoos. Guys want face. I don't do any of that stuff
yeah, yeah,
because I actually do fucking care,
yeah.
right?
No, that's awesome, and
I don't.
that's
I don't need that money. I don't need your face tattoo money or your hand tattoo money.
yeah,
I want to. My shop's a real shop. You
yeah,
know, we have integrity, and that's what matters to me, right?
yeah, yeah. No, that was
That's what I'm
good.
talking about, right? I would be ashamed of myself if a mother came in with her 18-year-old daughter with a giant neck tattoo and I said it was okay for her to get that.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
be ashamed of myself. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So these
No,
kind of,
100%.
right? And like you
That's
said, and especially in this, we talked about in this day and age of nail salon style tattoo shops everywhere, no one gives a shit, man. They're all fucking
yeah.
tattooing each other's hands and faces and necks and fucking eyeballs and you know what I mean?
That's crazy. But that's crazy, man. But the other thing is, which getting onto that, I know you're a disciplined guy. I think I trained you probably for about would have been 8 years. I think it was 7 years, 8 years. I think it was roughly all up. Before we, obviously I moved and you were busy and whatever. And I know
Well,
you're
I moved
disciplined. So
away. I moved different suburbs, and then you moved to Adelaide. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. And I know you're disciplined. You love your training, and whether it's gym training, martial arts training. I know you did martial arts training previously as well. Um, how does fitness play a part, or has or does play a part with your profession and just your mental well-being and aspect, even in business? Do you find the physical outlet, has that influenced you in within how you work or how you feel within your work? Is it a
Absolutely, man.
yeah?
You have to have. I mean, physical fitness directly correlates to mental fitness and mental health.
That's right.
Now, when I was traveling around the world tattooing, I lived in a backpack for 8 years, basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
my morning run, my morning push-ups was the cleansing reset part of my day.
yes,
When I was staying in a hostel or a friend's couch or whatever, sleeping in a tattoo shop, I'd always get up, go run 5 or 6 Ks, bust out a bunch of pull-ups and push-ups, and that would reset my head. Because it's a head fuck when you travel and you're working for a lot of different people, or even if I'm at the shop and I'm managing a bunch of fucking psychopathic tattoo artists and, I've got shit with clients and stuff. Having that, just go do a run, go lift some weights, go do some forms,
yeah,
that physical. And also, I mean, as any craftsman, it's my duty to myself and my clients to be fit,
yes,
stay
yeah,
healthy,
yeah,
right? You see a lot of guys in your particular craft and your trade, they get old and they get the belly, right? Yeah, the gi doesn't fit over them too well anymore, and
That's right.
they've slowed down a little bit. You know what I mean? They start opening franchises, right?
I think the biggest thing I liked for certainly for martial arts was Instagram and YouTube and whatever, because when it was printed press was the main thing, you could just take some still shots in a magazine and
Fuck it up.
do what and then you said like it's quite funny because a lot of the the masters on the magazines, they sculpted as soon as printed press went and say Instagram came in or YouTube, because you have to do something. You got to you got to show it, and it's and I know exactly what you mean there. So it's quite interesting. I'm not naming names of people, but they just disappeared overnight. They sort of
have to because they can't keep up.
yeah. So it was, but I know certainly from knowing you're a physical person, and I could imagine that being a big part of your. Certainly, I know for me, it's a big part because obviously martial arts is my business, but my training, teaching is my business. But certainly my training keeps me focused and centered for the business side of it, and
keeps your head clear.
Yeah,
keeps you able to do what you do. I haven't been able to train for probably. I stopped training the first lockdown of COVID.
Yes.
Because of my hip. was really bad, and I thought I just need to take a break.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I had this osteoarthritis issue with me. I didn't know my joint was fucked. I thought it was just musculature, right?
Okay.
So I was getting massage and physio and thinking if I stop sitting on the floor cross-legged and I get some massage, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was 4 years ago, and it never went away, right?
Okay.
So I kept getting physio and kept getting massage. And then nowhere along the way did any of these physios ever go, hey, you should get an MRI done, right?
Oh,
then,
really? Wow.
Yeah, no one mentioned it, right? And then my friend, Ian, who I work beside, he's like, dude, go get a fucking MRI, right? Go see what's going on. And so I went, he organized it for me. I went and got an MRI, and they're like, oh, no, your hip is fucking destroyed.
Wow.
Right? So I haven't been able to train since, April 2020. And I did a bit of working out here and there, but because it was like this chronic pain,
Yeah.
it sapped the life. It'd be like if you had like a short in your car somewhere.
Yeah.
And every time you started, the battery is just a little bit dead. That's because I had this pain. And I started running again earlier this year because my blood pressure was high, and I thought I'll start exercising again. Fuck it, I'll just run through the pain, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing these 5K runs with this fucking destroyed hip, right?
Yeah.
And that's what led me to getting the MRI done.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward. The whole point of what I'm saying is I'm really looking forward to this being healed,
Yeah.
so I can get back into training and being active and being fit.
Yeah.
Because I miss it.
Yeah. No. It's because you can tell I know you're obviously with what you've done and achieved, you're a disciplined person, and most people who are disciplined are into that you're into your physical aspects and training, and it just keeps you focused. So it's good. Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. Well, Ken, thanks, mate, for the thanks for being you. Thanks for bringing this. I was saying to you before, you are and have inspired a generation. I think with tattooing, you're this generation. Probably in the last 20 years, we've obviously there's been a resurgence in tattooing, and I think you're one of the main forerunners in influencing a generation in tattooing right now. You're keeping the traditions going, but modernizing and it's an awesome story, really is. It's great that you're forging ahead and doing that stuff. It's awesome, man.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you thinking of me for your show.
Yeah, no, all good. Maybe we can have you as a regular guest every now and then. We'll
Here, dude.
We'll chew the fat.
Sounds good, buddy.
Okay, take care, mate. Take care.
Thanks, mate. I'll talk to you soon, buddy. See you, mate.